Hello everyone, welcome to Believers IAS Academy, Bengaluru. Today we are launching a brand new series where we will be discussing important topics from the perspective of UPSC prelims as well as mains. And in today's starting session, the topic which you have chosen is Bulldozer Justice. So if you have been reading the newspaper, you would be reading in the front page, Bulldozer Justice has been happening in Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh and different states. Okay, that is why Supreme Court has taken the issue and issued certain guidelines on the bulldozer justice. So in this video, we will see what is this bulldozer justice, what is the background of this one, and what are the guidelines issued by Supreme Court. So very important topic. Just make note down the important articles and the case studies. Okay, this way we can use in the mains answers. So first one, what is the news? Okay, the news is Supreme Court under the powers of Article 142 of the Constitution has laid down series of guidelines to ensure that the due process is followed in demolishing the properties of citizens accused of crimes. Okay, as I said, if you have been following the news in various states of India such as Uttar Pradesh, Uttarakhand, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, etc., the state governments and the legal officiaries are resorting to bulldozers to demolish the properties of the like people belonging to crimes. Okay, anyone committing the crimes, their properties are being demolished under bulldozer. So that is why it was in the case was in the news. So the ruling comes after series of cases in which the state authorities allegedly demolished properties as a punitive measure practice referred by the Chief Justice of India as bulldozer justice. Okay, so what is preventive and punitive justice? Preventive is any measures which is to prevent the crime from happening. Okay, that is preventive measures. What is punitive measures? The crime has already happened, so now you are taking a measure as a retributive justice. Okay, so bulldozer justice is a sort of punitive justice. Okay, so you have committed a crime. In order to punish you, you are resorting to this bulldozer. So first and foremost important point here is Article 142. If you know about Supreme Court of India, it is one of the most powerful Supreme Court of the world, most powerful judiciary in the world. Majorly, it all comes down to Article 142. What is 142? Article 142 provides Supreme Court the power to do complete justice. Okay, so Supreme Court has the power to do complete justice. In order to do the complete justice, Supreme Court can issue any orders. Okay, Supreme Court can issue any orders in favor of providing the complete justice. In that, Supreme Court, whenever it provides any order, whenever it gives any order, it is the duty of the parliament, it is the duty of the government to make a law to enforce the order provided by the Supreme Court. Okay, and another provision of the same article states that until and unless a law is enforced by the parliament, such order shall be enforced by the presidential order. Okay, so for main example for this one here is, best example for this one here is, you must be knowing about Vishaka guidelines. Okay, Vishaka guidelines, these were issued in 1990s. Okay, 1990s. It was based on a crime the crime that happened in the office. Okay, so for many years, until the government brought any law, the Vishaka guidelines were the only laws or only provisions which were present in India to enforce safety and security of women in working places. Okay, after that, in 2013, Parliament brought a law called as POSH, Protection of Women from Sexual Harassment in Workplaces. Okay, which is also called as ASH, Anti-Sexual Harassment Activities in Workplaces. So this is the power under Article 142, which makes Supreme Court of India one of the most powerful judiciary in the world. Okay, this is about Article 142. Now moving on to the current issue, that is bulldozer justice. In today, we will know the background of bulldozer justice, what are the background, and then we will try to see what are the guidelines issued by Supreme Court. So the background here is, Supreme Court addressed the pleas. Many pleas were challenging the practice of demolishing homes of individuals accused of criminal activities. Okay, many times what was happening is, suppose there is a communal riot, suppose there is a criminal activity. What happened is the police will be, like, without evaluating a person who has committed the crime, they were they were using the they were using bulldozers to destroy the property of individuals who are accused of crime in criminal riots, okay, or communal riots. So when these kind of activities are rampant in the country, many people went to Supreme Court regarding the issue. So Supreme Court, while addressing the many pleas under the Supreme Court, they gave these guidelines. This practice is seen in states like UP, MP, Uttarakhand, and Rajasthan, and has often led to accusation of bias and lack of due process. Okay, though most of the accusation was that it is favoring one certain of the community. Okay, a certain part of the community, and it is against a certain community. Okay, most of the times what happened is, whenever there is a communal riot happening, most of the times the properties of community belonging to Muslims were being demolished by the government. So it was accused of being bias, and it didn't follow the due process. What happens in due process? First you have to evaluate the crime, then you have to see what are the criminals, then you have to evaluate the possible actions against this one. Here none of that was taken up. Instead they are directly providing the justice. Now, so the ruling was prompted by the recent cases in Ratlan, MP, Udaipur, Rajasthan, where the demolitions were linked to allegations against family members involved in the communal or criminal accidents. Okay, what happened is, there is a family, okay, a certain youth is involved in criminal activities, certain youth is involved in criminal riots. Because of that certain youth, you are going to destroy the complete home of his person. Okay, so who is the sufferer? Is it just the youth, or is it whole the family? Okay, so whole family of the particular individual was suffering. That is why people went to the Supreme Court along with the police to provide certain relief for those kind of issues. Okay, so what happened is, these are the Supreme Court guidelines on the demolitions. Okay, so if you are going to use the process of bulldozer justice, if you are going to use the bulldozers to demolish a particular property, you have to follow certain guidelines. Okay, executive has the power to destroy particular property if it is illegal. Okay, but for that you have to follow certain procedures. What are the certain procedures is, first one is mandatory notice period. What happens here is, if you are going to demolish a particular property, you have to provide a notice period of minimum 15 days to the property owner or occupier before the demolition. So 15 period of notice period should be given, and then notice must outline the reasons for demolition and schedule a personal hearing to allow property owners a chance to contest. Okay, in the notice what you have to provide here is, you have to provide the reasons for demolition. What are the reasons you are using the bulldozers to demolish a particular property? Along with that, you should provide a opportunity for the owners of the property to present their case also. Okay, and second is hearing and final order. So what happens is, the authorities who are involved in demolishing a particular property must conduct a hearing and document all the proceedings. What is hearings? Such as similar as court hearings. You have to hear the both sides. Okay, you have to follow the natural justice. And the final demolition order must include the arguments presented by the owner, the reasons for demolition, and whether full or partial demolition is required. Okay, in the hearing you should look into all the aspects, such as what are the arguments presented by the owner, is the arguments or are the arguments provided by the owner legible. Okay, and then you have to see the reason for demolition, whether complete property is to be demolished or any part of the property is to be demolished. And then court also emphasizes that demolitions should be the last resort and ordered only when deemed absolutely necessary. Okay, so it should be used as a last resort, and it should not be used as a first resort to provide up justice. So it should be the last resort for using bulldozers. And post order process. Okay, the final order for demolition is issued. A 15-day period will follow to allow the owner time to either remove the structure or appeal in court. Okay, so once all these processes are followed, the final process is post order process. Here, after the order, 15-day period should be allowed for the owner to contest in the court. Okay, and then authorities must also record a video of the demolition and prepare an inspection and demolition report listing the persons involved. Okay, so that there will be a proper evidence for the demolition process, whether the demolition process was conducted according to the rules and regulations or whether it was conducted for the namesake. Okay, after this one we'll see the reasoning behind this guidelines. Okay, Supreme Court has already given the guidelines: notice period, video hearing, hearing of the owner, and then video recording of the complete demolition. And then what are the reasonings behind guidelines? Okay, Supreme Court said that separation of powers, okay, proving the guilty, okay, proving the guilt of a person is the prerogative of the judiciary. Okay, it is the duty of the judiciary, not the executive. Okay, because judiciary is the one which is capable or who is in power to who is in power to establish the guilt of a person. Okay, the court asserted that judiciary, not the executive, is responsible for determining the guilt. Okay, because they are the one capable of examining the guilt. Here what was happening in Bulldozer justice is the guilt was also established by the executive and the order also established by executive and the final decision also taken by the executive. So it was not following the separation of powers, okay, which is one of the parts of basic structure doctrines. Okay, and then it also emphasized that punishing an accused by demolishing their property without a judicial trial oversteps the executive boundary. So for any action, first there should be a thorough scrutiny by the judiciary, only then the executive can take actions. Here what was happening is that was being bypassed by the executive. And second one is public trust and accountability. What Supreme Court said that there is a need for transparency, stating that public officials should be held accountable for misuse of authority, particularly when the demolition target properties merely because the owner is an accused. Okay, whenever there is a demolition of a particular property, it happens for many reasons. One of the major reasons is it is illegal property. Okay, whenever there is a property which is built illegally, that is most of the times demolished by the officials. Second time what happens is other times when the demolition happens is when the person is accused, okay, in such as communal raids, that person's property will be demolished by the executive. So here what happens is it is eroding the trust of the public trust. Okay, public trust, so which is very important in the governance of a country. So for that you should be holding the public officials who are involved in the demolition process very accountable, so that they do not use the power for just misuse, okay, for their own agenda. And then right to shelter, this is very important. Supreme Court noted that demolitions affect not only the accused but also the family members who have constitutional rights to shelter under Article 21 of the Constitution. Okay, what is Article 21? Right to life and personal liberty. So right to shelter also comes under right to life and property. Okay, right to life. So by providing these guidelines, Supreme Court is in one way upholding the right to life of the individuals. The guidelines aim to protect these individuals from losing their homes unjustly. So these are certain reasons given by the Supreme Court behind these guidelines. Along with this one, another important point which we should consider is this justice is also against the property rights. Okay, first we will have a background about discussion about the what is the background of right to property. Okay, so in the original constitution, okay, original constitution, there are two articles, Article 19(1)(f), Article 31. These two articles dealt with right to property of individuals in Indian Constitution. Okay, you know Article 19. Article 19 talks about freedoms. Okay, what are the freedoms? Okay, Article 19, 1A to G. Okay, first one, Article 19(1)(a) is like freedom of speech and expression. B is right to form association. Okay, C is right to assemble without arms. D is right to move anywhere throughout the country. E is right to reside anywhere in the country. And F was right to property. And G is right to practice any profession of their liking. Okay, and these particular rights had restrictions, reasonable restrictions under Article 19 clause 2 to 19 clause 6. Okay, these were a certain provisions provided under original Indian Constitution. Okay, so now what happens is right to property is provided under Indian Constitution, meaning any individual who is present in any individual who is a citizen of India had the right to own a property and right to manage that property according to his own desires. Okay, and then Article 31, it dealt with right against being deprived of one's property. What happened is, during the early periods of the, okay, this like article, what happened is, provided the right against being deprived of one's own property. Okay, meaning if a government or if executive is asking one to leave their property and leave behind their property, in that case that person has the right against being deprived of this one property. He can go to the judiciary asking that my property is being deprived, which is against the fundamental rights of the constitution. Then he would have a reprieve under government, under judiciary. Okay, so these two original articles were always in clash. Okay, with who? With the government, because in the early periods of Indian independence, okay, after the Indian independence, most of the legal laws, okay, laws which were taken by the government were around land reforms. Okay, what was the aim of land reforms? Land reforms was to consolidation of the land. Okay, and then like putting land ceiling holding, like holdings on the, like ceilings on the land holding, that is the maximum amount of land a person should hold. And then it also aimed at distribution of wealth, that is distribution of property between like haves and have nots. Okay, when you want to, if there is a land ceiling, okay, land ceiling, it was around 51 acres normally and 19 acres, etc., the provisions. Okay, so if a person is having more than 51 acres, okay, that property was taken away from him and then it was distributed to others. Okay, so the law or the policy was very good in nature, but it was against the Article 19, Article 31. Okay, so it was always coming in clash. There was always clashes between the executive and the judiciary or this one. So what happened is, like in order to overcome this legal or constitutional hurdle, the executive or the government brought 44th Constitution Amendment Act, okay, in 1978. Under this, they removed Article 19(1)(f) and Article 31, meaning right to property is no longer a fundamental right, and right against deprivation of one's own property is no longer a fundamental right. After that, it added Article 300A in the same Constitution Amendment Act. It converted the right to property from a fundamental right to legal right. Okay, what it stated is, no person can be deprived except by a authority of law. Okay, so when the like authority which is provided by the law, meaning legal authorities, can take away the property of an individual. Okay, this was the like article added by 44th Constitution Amendment Act. And after this one, there were certain Supreme Court judgments regarding this one. Most recent one that happened in May 2024, in this year only. Like the case background is Calcutta Municipal Corporation. What happened is, Calcutta Municipal Corporation wanted to acquire a particular like personal property and wanted to convert it into public park. Okay, so that person went to judiciary, that person went to Supreme Court, and Supreme Court said that the power under Article 300A, what is the power under Article 300A? That person can be deprived by authority of law, meaning the authority which is backed by the law has the power to take away property. So this power to take away property is not absolute. Supreme Court said that you cannot take away property as your will and wishes. Okay, you have to pass constitutional validity. Okay, so how the constitutional validity is proved is, it has to follow the certain procedural rights. Okay, what are these procedural rights is, Supreme Court in this case, Kolkata Municipal Corporation case, laid down 6 rights, that is 6 procedural rights. Those rights were right to notice, that is you have to provide a notice to a particular individual before you are moving towards acquisition of property, and then right to be heard, that is similar to what the guidance were issued by Supreme Court now, that is you have to give opportunity for the owners of the property to be heard, and then right to fair decision. Okay, you should allow the individuals, you should allow the property owners to make an informed decision, and then only for the public property, that is you can take away personal property of an individual only for the purpose of public use, not for the personal use of a legal authority. Okay, and then he should be provided with a fair compensation. If you are acquiring a particular property of an individual, he should be provided with a fair acquisition based on the market value. And it should also be based on efficient conduct. There should not be any malafide involved in the exercising this power. And finally, right to conclusion. The right to conclusion is the right of the property owner. Okay, he has the final right whether to give away the property or not. Okay, meaning the power of the authority backed by the law to take away particular property is not completely absolute. Okay, this was the another news which was in news. This was another topic which was in news. So these were both related, so I took up this topic. Now we'll try to understand demolition law and practices across Indian states. Okay, just we'll go through this one. First, Rajasthan. In Rajasthan, there is a state act called as Rajasthan Municipalities Act, where they can confiscate properties and enforce the public land. And then in Delhi, Delhi Municipal Corporation Act allows the removal of unauthorized structure with a reasonable opportunity. And then Haryana, same thing. Municipal Corporation Act, similar to Delhi's DMC Act. If it is a illegal property or if it is unauthorized property, state has the right to demolish the property. In Madhya Pradesh Municipalities Act allows for the demolition of unauthorized construction only after serving notice. And then UP Urban Planning and Development Act, owner receive a minimum notice period of 15 days before the demolition of unauthorized structures, and the owner can appeal the order, but once finalized it cannot be contested in the court. Okay, so these all the laws which are made by the state governments are almost similar to the guidance issued by the Supreme Court. But what was happening in practice is they are not following the rights properly. They are not following the procedure properly. Okay, they are just executing the bulldozer justice as per their whims and wishes. Okay, so now what is the impact of SC's verdict? Okay, so the verdict which SC Supreme Court has taken, the guidance which Supreme Court has taken is in line with the constitutional validity. But is this enough? Okay, first we will see the impact. The impact here is it provides a path forward. That is, affected families hope that the ruling will push local authorities toward providing restitution either through compensation or through the restoration of demolished properties. Okay, whatever is, if moving forward you cannot demolish a particular property without following the guidelines. But what about the people who have already been suffered under this bulldozer justice? What about the people who have already lost their properties because of bulldozer justice? For them, they are hoping that there will be restitution, meaning they will be provided certain compensation or they will be provided certain opportunities to rebuild their own property. Okay, and what are the challenges in implementation is transparency. The SC's verdict calls for transparency and accountability. There are still gaps in ensuring that compensation reaches those already affected. Okay, so the guideline already emphasizes providing the compensation for the people affected, but is the compensation actually reaching the person who are in need? Okay, so that should be cared up. Now, the future policies must address the issue of restitution, ensuring fair outcomes for those unjustly impacted by bulldozer justice. Okay, and now for the conclusion. Okay, what happens is, by safeguarding the right to shelter and enforcing accountability, court aims to prevent bulldozer justice and ensure that the government operates within constitutional boundaries, meaning there should be proper checks and balances on executive and the legislative by the judiciary. Then, however, for those who have already lost their homes, for those who have already suffered, for them the struggle for justice is far from over, as the questions about restitution remain unresolved. Okay, moving forward, the guidelines are positive. Guidelines are very positive for the persons, but what about the persons who are suffering? That remains the questions to be solved. Okay, for those persons, the most suitable option would be to providing restitution by compensation or allowing them to own the property again. Okay, so this was today's hot topic. If you have any doubts, you can also comment in the box, and if you want any other new topics to be discussed, you can also write those in the comment box. In the coming classes, we will be regular to these kind of hot topics everyday videos. We'll be uploading these videos every day. So going forward, we'll have a everyday discussions about important topics. Okay, if you like the topic or if you like the video, please like, comment and share with your friends, and also subscribe to the Believers IS channel. With this, I will end today's video. Jai Hind.